So do you also use GoToWebinar for your business? Then this video is definitely for you. So hello all, welcome back to Pabbly Connect, and in this video we are going to understand how to create GoToWebinar registrant on Elementor Form Submission. So I manage a training center and we regularly conduct live webinars using GoToWebinar, and what we do is we use Elementor to get the signups and registrations for that webinar. So now what I want is that as soon as the new form submission is made in my Elementor, which is as soon as we receive a new registration, automatically a registrant should be created in my GoToWebinar automatically without any manual efforts. So to do this, we are going to create a connection between Elementor and GoToWebinar. To create this connection without knowing any programming or coding language, we are going to use Pabbly Connect. It is an amazing automation software. So do you also wish to learn this process step by step? Then let me take you to my computer screen.
Welcome to my screen, everyone. So as you know that you are here to learn about how to create GoToWebinar registrant on Elementor Form Submission. So as I've already mentioned in my introduction that I manage a training company that hosts live webinars using GoToWebinar to educate professionals on various skills. So to streamline the registration process, we also use Elementor Form on our website for signups. So now what I want is that as soon as someone signs up for a webinar right over here, automatically they should be added as a registrant in my GoToWebinar. So yes, this setup simplifies the registration process of our attendees, reduce manual work for our team, and ensure that everyone interested in our sessions is promptly added to the GoToWebinar event. So yes, as you know that GoToWebinar and Elementor don't have any native connection, right? So in order to do this process, we are going to create a connection between both of these applications, and we're going to create this connection with the help of Pabbly Connect, as I mentioned in my introduction. So to create this simple connection, I've already opened the landing page of Pabbly by searching pabbly.com/connect in my browser. It is very easy. So as soon as we're going to open the landing page of Pabbly, we're going to get two options. One is sign in and the other one is sign up for free. So if you're a new user, you can click on sign up for free and you're going to get 100 of hours free every month. But I'm an existing user, so I'm going to click on sign in right over here. And as soon as we're going to click on sign in, it is opening all Pabbly apps. Over here, you can see all the tools and applications offered by Pabbly. But in today's video, we are going to use Pabbly Connect because we are connecting different applications, right? Which is GoToWebinar and Elementor. So I'm going to click on access now right over here to access my Pabbly Connects account. And as soon as we're going to click on access now, it is opening my dashboard. And to start with this automation, we are going to click on this button which says create workflow. And now it is asking me the workflow name and the folder I want to save the workflow in. So over here, I want to save the workflow in this folder which is automations. And on my dashboard, you can see multiple folders which I have already created in which I save my workflows. So if you wish to learn how to create a new folder or a subfolder, you can click on this hyperlink given right over here which says learn more. And now it is asking me for the workflow name. So I want the workflow name to be this, which says how to create GoToWebinar registrant on Elementor Form Submission. Elementor Form to GoToWebinar, and then we are going to click on create. And as soon as we're going to click on create, it is opening the most important window for automation, which is our workflow window. So this is the most important window because we have trigger and action in this. Trigger means when this happens and action means do this. So by this you can understand that the trigger is the commander for the workflow and actions follow the commands. And as you know that we can have only a single commander but multiple followers. So over here we can have only a single trigger but multiple actions following the commands of our trigger. And by this you can finally understand that the actions are response towards the commands given by our trigger. And in order to start with our automation, we have to select our trigger application. So for my trigger application, we are going to select it as Elementor. So I'm going to search for Elementor right over here, and as you can see the same, so we're going to select it. And after selecting the trigger application, it is asking me for the trigger event. So basically trigger event is the event on which the workflow will start. So over here what I want is that as soon as a new form submission is made, my workflow should be triggered or started. So I've selected the same as my trigger event. And after selecting the trigger event, it has given me a webhook URL. So we're going to use this same webhook URL in order to create a connection between our Elementor form and our Pabbly's workflow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this webhook URL, and then we're going to follow this help text, and it is saying sign into your Elementor account, locate and edit the form that you wish to integrate. Within the form settings, navigate to the actions after submit section, add new action by selecting webhook. So yes, I'm going to follow the same. I'm going to open my Elementor account. So as you can see that I've opened my WordPress account, and as you know that Elementor is a plugin of WordPress, right? So what it is saying that first we have to select the form which we want to integrate. Okay, so as you can see that this is the form I want to integrate. So over here you can see the button of edit with Elementor. So I'm going to open this in a new tab, and as soon as we're going to open this, we're going to edit this form so that we can add the webhook URL in our form, right? So as as you can see that this is my form right over here, right? So I'm going to select the fields right over here, and after selecting the fields we have to go on the left sidebar and then actions after submit. And as soon as we're going to go over here, it is saying me to add actions. Okay, so we're going to add action right over here which says webbook. So I'm going to search for webbook, and as you can see the same, so we're going to add it. And as soon as we're going to add the action right over here, you can see webbook appeared right over here to right. So I'm going to open this, and now it is asking me for the webbook URL. So I'm going to paste the URL which we copied from our workflow. And after doing all of this, I'm going to click on this button which says publish. So we're going to save this form and publish this, right? That's why I've clicked on this button, and yes, you can see that we have successfully published it. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to go back to my form, and now we're going to do the test submission. So what we're going to do is right over here, you can see that it is saying waiting for a webbook response, right? And in the notes it is saying do a test submission / record. So in order to capture this webbook response and complete our successful connection, we have to do a test submission. So what we have to do is we have to do a new form submission right over here with the test details. So it is saying first name, so I'm going to keep it as dummy, last name as user, email as dummy@pablitudes.com, and this is the phone number. And then we're going to click on send, and as soon as we're going to click on send, it is saying your submission was successful. So yes, with this we have successfully completed this submission, and now what has happened is that Elementor has sent the details of our submission to our workflow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my workflow and check that if Pabbly has captured the response of the same or not. So I'm going to open my workflow, and we're going to wait for a few seconds right over here. And yes, you can see that we have successfully received the response. You can see the form name, you can see the form ID, you can see the mobile number which we entered, the last name, the first name, and the email which we entered. So yes, with this we have successfully completed this trigger step because we have captured the desired response which we submitted right over here in our test submission. So yes, with this we have successfully completed this trigger step, and now what will happen is that as soon as a new form submission is made in my Elementor, automatically Pabbly is going to trigger this workflow. Okay, and further I want to add these details as a registrant in GoToWebinar, right? So for my action application, I'm going to select it as GoToWebinar. So I'm going to search for GoToWebinar right over here, and as you can see the same, so we're going to select it. And now for the action event, we are going to select it as create registrant, and then we're going to click on this button which says connect. And as soon as we're going to click on connect, it is asking me to select existing connection or add a new connection. So over here, if you have already connected your GoToWebinar account with your Pabbly's workflow, you can click on select existing connection and then save. But if you haven't, you have to follow me, click on add a new connection, and now it is asking me for the from time to time and then connect with GoToWebinar button. Okay, so over here it is saying from time in UTC time zone required in data fetching of your webinar list. Okay, over here it is saying to time right over here. So over here we have to enter the from time and to time. So I'm going to open my GoToWebinar right from here, and as you can see that this is the webinar I want to add the registrant in. Okay, so I'm going to open this, and as you can see that this is the from time and the to time which is 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. but this is in IST right over here, but we want to enter this in UTC format. So here what I want to do is I want to enter the time in UTC format, right? And in order to convert this IST into UTC format, what we're going to do is I'm going to open a new tab, and then we're going to look for IST to UTC right over here. And as you can see, IST to UTC converter, so I'm going to select any one from this. You can use any another, right? Okay, over here it is saying me to enter the IST time. Okay, so I'm going to open my GoToWebinar, and over here you can see that it is saying 12 p.m. so I'm going to enter 12 p.m. right over here first. So over here we are going to enter 12, and then we're going to look for PM, and then okay. And as I was going to do so, yes, you can see that in UTC it is 6:30 a.m. Okay, we got this right. So what we are going to do is first we're going to copy this example right over here, and then we're going to paste it right over here in the from time. And as you can see, it is saying this is the date, right? So over here I'm going to open my webinar, and as you can see that this is the date of my webinar, which is 22nd of November 2024. Okay, so here you can see that this is the date. So over here for me it's 22nd, so I'm going to enter 22nd. Over here you can see it's month, so I'm going to keep it as 11, which is November. And over here for the year we are going to keep it as 2024. Okay, then T, and over here you can see that this is the time. So for me the UTC time is 6:30 a.m. so I'm going to enter 6:30 right over here. So I'm going to erase this. We're going to enter 06 and then 30, and after entering this we're going to move on forward. Over here for the to time we are going to do the same. Again we are going to copy the example right over here. We're going to paste it. We are going to enter the date. Over here the date is 22nd and then 11 right over here, and then 2024. And after entering this we are going to move on forward. What we're going to do is again we're going to convert this IST in UTC for the end time. It is 1, right? So over here I'm going to keep it as 1 p.m. and as you can see that it is 7:30 a.m. Okay, so I'm going to keep it as 7:30 a.m. right over here. I'm going to enter 07 and then 30, and after entering both of this we are going to click on this button which says connect with GoToWebinar. And as soon as I'm going to click on this button which says connect with GoToWebinar, right over here you can see that yes, we have successfully created a connection between our GoToWebinar and our Pabbly's workflow. And over here you can see that this is the webinar, right? We want to create this automation for. So yes, you can see that this was really easy. But if you wish to learn detailed tutorial video about this, you're going to get the link right over here in this, where you can see watch the video tutorial. Here you're going to redirect it to the tutorial. Okay, so yes, you can see that we have successfully got over here, we have connected our GoToWebinar with our Pabbly's workflow. And now it is asking for the first name, the last name and the email. So yes, we're going to enter these right over here, which we received from our previous response, right? But we're not going to enter it manually like copy pasting it, but instead we are going to map it. So you must be wondering, what is mapping? So mapping is a method by Pabbly which means inserting the data from the previous step. And as you know, our previous step was the trigger step, where we selected Elementor as our trigger application. So we're going to map the details from the response of our trigger application only. And as soon as we're going to map these details, automatically my details will turn dynamic and change with every new response received. So I'm going to give you an example that it is asking me for the first name, right? So let's suppose we're going to enter the first name right over here like this, which is dummy. Then this will not change with every new response received because this is the static information and I've entered it manually. But if we're going to map this from the previous response, suppose I'm going to look for first name, and as you can see, the same. So let's say we're going to map this from the previous response, then this will definitely change because my previous response will also change. So that's why we do mapping right over here to run our workflow in real time. So same, we are going to map the last name to right over here, then email right over here, and then we're going to move on forward. So here you can see the email, we're going to map it. We're going to move on forward. You can see that it is asking for the address and many other details. So as you can see, all of these details are not the required details. So I'm going to leave it as blank and directly click on this button which says save and send this request. And as soon as we're going to click on save and send this request, yes, you can see approved. So yes, with this we have successfully received a positive response that we have successfully created a new registrant in our GoToWebinar. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to open my GoToWebinar and check for the new registrant created. So here I'm going to open it. Right from here we are going to scroll, and as you can see, registration. So I'm going to open this, and as you can see, it's saying total registrations are 2, but we're going to refresh it right over here, and yes, you can see that we have successfully created a new registrant. It is saying name dummy user. You can see the same email which we entered. So yes, with this we have successfully completed our workflow, and we have successfully created a new registrant in our GoToWebinar with the same details received in our form submission of Elementor. But I'm going to test this workflow once, and this time I'm going to give you a real-time example. So what we're going to do is I'm going to open my form once again, and we're going to do another test submission. So I'm going to open the form once again, and as you can see that this is the form. Okay, so I'm going to do the test submission once again. For the first name, I'm going to keep it as test, last name user, email as testuser@pabblytudes.com, and over here is the mobile number. We are going to click on send, and as soon as we're going to click on send, your submission was successful. So yes, with this we have successfully did another test submission, and now what has happened is that Elementor has sent the details of a test submission to our workflow. Pabbly captured the response, triggered the workflow, and further created a new registrant in our GoToWebinar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my GoToWebinar account and check for the new registrant created, and this time we are not going back to our workflow and clicking on save and send test request. Directly I'm going to open my GoToWebinar right over here and check for the new registration or the new registrant created. Okay, so I'm going to refresh this right from here, which is the webinar, to check for the new one created. And after refreshing this, I'm going to scroll again. We are going to go on registrations, and yes, you can see total registrants have turned into 4. So I'm going to open it, and yes, you can see name test user, email test user @pabblytudes.com. So as you can see that these are the same details which we entered, right? So yes, with this we have successfully completed our workflow, and now I'll just summarize this workflow for you once. So for the trigger application, we selected Elementor. For the trigger event, we selected new form submission. For the action application, we selected GoToWebinar, and then for the action event, we selected create registrant, because I wanted that as soon as a new form submission is made in my Elementor, automatically with the help of the same details, a new registrant should be created in my GoToWebinar without any manual efforts. And yes, we were successful with our workflow too. Over here you can see the 2 registrants I created during this video with the help of my workflow without any manual efforts, and we have also tested this workflow in real time too. So yes, this was it for the video, and if you have any questions related to the video or the workflow, you can directly comment on this video. And for your reference, I'll just clone this workflow and share the workflow link in the description box so that you can access my workflow. I hope this video was helpful for you. Thank you for watching.
So not only these applications, but with the help of Pabbly Connect, you can integrate many more applications. So if you have any doubts, you can reach us at support@pabbly.com. If you have any queries, you can reach us at forum.pabbly.com. And if you have any pricing related issues, you can follow this website. And if you find our videos helpful, do like and subscribe our channel. Thank you for watching.